Good day, students. I am Ms. Kandando, the tutor for Social Science 2. I will shortly be giving you the information or details on what should be expected in the upcoming examinations for Social Science 2. There is my information, my email address, which is tk@gmail.com, cell phone number 081 6155 that is my contact information where you can contact me should you have any questions regarding the assignments or exams of Social Science 2. The content to be mastered, and I would like to also inform you that this is not specific questions that are asked in the exams. And as you know, you have 3 opportunities to write exams in Social Science 2. These slides are also not prepared to in such a way that you will know which questions or which components are addressed in which exam paper. So this is just a general overview and what you should be prepared for should you be sitting for any one of the 3 exams in Social Science 2. Okay. Now the content to be mastered for the exams in Social Science 2 is the seasons. You need to know seasons. How do seasons occur? Or how do they form? This is now under astronomical geography, like astronomy. How do seasons occur and how do they occur or how do they form? Okay, you all know that the Earth revolves around the star, which is the sun, and that revolution obviously brings about seasons. But you need to know, you should be able to draw a diagram illustrating how seasons occur. How do we have winter? Why do we have winter when we have winter? And why do we have summer when we have summer? Why do we have spring when we have spring? Why do we have autumn when we have autumn? So you need to know how season occurs. You should maybe be able to also draw a sketch, or you should be able to explain and discuss and elaborate on seasons in general. Components of lesson plans. Components of lesson plans. What are the components of a lesson plan? Like when you look at a lesson plan, what should it have? Obviously, is the date, the grade, the year, the subject, the lesson objectives, the basic competencies, the introduction part, the teacher roles, the learner's roles, how the lesson will be consolidated, and the reinforcement and so forth. So you need to know all these components, and you should be also able to come up with a lesson plan, for example, on any topic of your choice. So just prepare yourself in that regard. All proceedings of Namibia from German occupation in 1914 to independence 1990. So what happened in our history right from the start when colonialism came or started? What happened? How did it start? Who came first to Namibia? Who discovered it, and who started to do the with the colonization processes and so forth and so forth? And what happened? Everything that happened from German occupation up until Namibia independence, 1990, when Namibia got its independence. We should be able to elaborate, discuss, and give a lot of details about it. It is important to dates the years in which specific things happen, because specific events occur. Because speaking from previous marking exams experience, students tend to play around with the years a lot, and that makes them lose marks because they start to mention things that happen in a specific year, and then they start to say it happened. They mention that it happened in another year. So when you are studying, please pay full attention, like full attention, like be specific. When something happened in a specific year, it happened in that year, and it didn't happen in any other year. It happened in that year. So it's important that we 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 mention the right year in which the event happened, because then you lose marks because of just mentioning any date, and even if you mention the correct event, for example. um, Reasons why Africa got colonized. Why did European countries colonize African countries? What were those reasons? All of them: political reasons, religious reasons, economical reasons, all those reasons. You need to know the reasons. You need to know the reasons, and you know how you need to explain these reasons. You need to elaborate. You need to know. And the question might come like this. For example, you might be asked, what were the political reasons as to why European countries colonized African countries? So you need to know the political reasons. So you cannot give economic reasons. So while you are asked political reasons, for example, I'm saying this because some students tend to study just parts of things, like reasons why African countries or nations were colonized by European countries. Then they just maybe decide, I'll just read the political reasons and the economic reasons. And what if the question comes then they ask about, and it's asking about religious reasons, for example, and now you didn't study the religious reasons, you studied only economic and what, and political. So it's important that you just go through all the reasons as to why African countries were colonized by European countries. You need to give reasons, or have reasons, or be able to explain or to elaborate and discuss why slavery began. What was slavery, and why did it begin? Where did it begin as well? It's very important that you know that. Content to be mastered further. Furthermore, you need to know SADC, the aims of SADC, the objectives, the member states of SADC. Where was it started? Where did SADC start? Where is its headquarters even now today? Who are the main members of SADC, and what are the objectives and the aims of SADC? Okay. Ways to determine direction. It is very important, students, that you know how to determine direction. What are the ways to determine direction? Not just to mention these ways, maybe you might also be required to explain, to elaborate how one can actually determine direction using a compass, or stars, or the sun, whatever. Like what other ways, and how does one use that specific thing, a watch, whatever, like how do they use that to determine direction? How does it work, the whole process? You might be given, here's the thing, you might be given the question might come, you can use a compass to determine direction. How do we do that? So if you only mastered, or you just studied how to, if you only mastered, or you just studied, for example, the processes themselves, like what do we use? We can use the sun, we can use the bed's movement, or you can use the compass, the GPS, what. If you just study that, and when the question comes, it's asking you to explain that, and that is already given to you in the question, so that becomes problematic for you. So just study everything regarding direction. Calculating distance. How do we calculate distance? I need for the students to mention to write down or to mention the the formula of calculating distance. It's very important because once you have a correct formula written down there, I as a marker already knows that this person knows how to calculate distance. Okay. The formula, and maybe you might be given a little practical map, work, do calculations quickly here and there. So it is important that you master calculating distance. And then the next one there is vegetation regions. We have various vegetation regions. Master them: the tropical grasslands, the tropical deserts, the tropical savannas, and all that. So it is important that you master those regions. You should know. Maybe you might be given a map where you will have to identify where you find what, or you will be asked to explain them. And then factors influencing population distribution in Namibia. Factors influencing population distribution in Namibia. Again, why do we find specific people where we find them, like the number of the population? Why is that the case? Why do we have, we know very well that we have the northern part of Namibia is densely populated. There are a lot of people there. What are the factors that are influencing this distribution? Why do we find more people in the north than in the south? And what are the reasons? What are the for example, physical factors? What are those factors that lead to a lot of people wanting or staying in the northern regions and staying in the southern regions? What are the climatic factors? What are the economic factors? All that. Primary and secondary industries. The other aspect that you need to master is primary and secondary industries. What are primary industries? What are secondary industries? There are examples. You might be asked to differentiate between the primary and the secondary industries as well. So when you are going to differentiate between two things, you need to show that you are differentiating. You are not defining, because there is a huge difference between differentiating, giving differences, than giving a definition. You need to use the terms that are showing that you are differentiating one thing from the other. So it's very important that you use terminologies that are showing that. Otherwise, it becomes definition, and then that means you're not answering the question that you are asked. Politics in Namibia. How are political parties organized in Namibia? This is a very interesting one. How are political parties organized in Namibia? We know our country is a democratic country. We recently just had an edition of a new political party, which is the IPC, for example. And it happens almost anytime, any day. That is the beauty of our country. It's a democratic country. But however, these political parties are organized in such a way. They have to have specific things in place for them to be accepted by the body or the authority that deals with the political parties in the country. They have to have a specific. There are components that political parties have to have in order for them to be considered as political parties. So you need to master that, the components of political parties. How should a political party in Namibia be organized? What should it have in place? You should have, for example, its president, its chairperson, and then its spokesperson, and then its what? All these type of things, all these components, all these things are in your your study guides. So go through them and master them. You should know how are political parties organized in Namibia. And politics in general. Read everything on politics in Namibia in general. Furthermore, content to be mastered. Discuss why Africans were traded as slaves. You need to be able to discuss why Africans were traded as slaves. You need to know why slavery began. Name? So you need to know why Africans were traded as slaves. Also, you need to know the routes that were used during slavery. Like the slaves will be taken from where they are in Africa, the specific area, and they will be kept somewhere because these people wanted to confuse the people and really drain them emotionally. So how did they do it? How did they get to it? Like, and how did, they were moved from one part, then what was the second the other destination before, until they reached their destination? Where were they taken? How were they taken? What were the routes that were mostly used? As we know, most of the slaves came from Western Africa. Then they ended up in the Caribbeans and so forth and so forth. How did they end up there? How were they traveling? How were they being carried or being taken from Africa to other countries, the Western countries? The lines of latitude. We have three main lines of latitude. The main one is the equator, which is at 0 degrees. And then we have the line of the Tropic of Capricorn, which passes through Namibia. That one lies 23.5 degrees south of the equator. And then we have the Tropic of Cancer, which is in the northern hemisphere. And that one lies 23.5 degrees in the north of the equator. We need to know these lines. We need to know where they are. And we also need to know their degrees. Like I said, the equator is the right one in the middle that divides the world into north and south. And it is at 0 degrees. And then we have the Tropic of Capricorn in the south of the equator, which is 23.5 degrees south of the equator. And then the Tropic of Cancer, which is in the northern hemisphere, which is 23.5 degrees north of the equator. It's important to know that you might be asked to draw a sketch of a map, or you might be asked to locate or put those lines on a map that is already provided for you, or you might be asked to create a sketch of an African map, or for example, and then quickly put indicate those lines of latitude. It is important that you know these lines, and most importantly, not just the lines, but also their degrees. The history of the Caprivis tribe, as we all know that the Caprivis tribe was not under the it wasn't considered part of Namibia. It wasn't considered part of Namibia. What was its history? How did it get to be part of Namibia, for example? How was it? What was special about it? There is something special, like a special part of history about the Caprivis tribe. Yeah, you need to be able to elaborate, discuss, and explain the history of the Caprivis tribe. Why African countries got colonized? Yes, I think I've mentioned this before. No, yes. Yeah, the reasons why African countries got colonized. Yes, it is very important that you know these reasons. Yeah, they can be political reasons, they can be economic reasons, religious reasons, all this. You need to know all the reasons. Okay, this is the end of our presentation. If you need any of my information or any details regarding, or you have any questions regarding the exams, or so, there is my information, my contact information. My email address, as I said at the beginning, is ritjatk@gmail.com. My cell phone number is 08161555100. You can preferably email me, and I'll get back to you, say in the span of a day or two, if I take long. And yeah, you can call me especially if you are unable to email and you are only able to call, you can call. But if you are able to email, that will be a better record for me. Yes, and it's a better platform for me to also get back to you. Thank you so much.